You're listening to the Social U podcast, sponsored by Social University. Be sure to follow us on our socials listed in the show notes. Now, let's dive in.
I'm Becky Johnson.
And I'm Laura Black. Welcome to the Social U podcast.
This week, I thought that it might be a good idea to talk about the qualities that we look for in a social media manager, not just when we're looking for someone to join our team, but this could also help you if you were looking for someone for your business, if you were hiring in-house for a social media manager, or if you were hiring a team, if you were outsourcing, some things that you look for, the qualities that we think make for a great social media manager. So Laura, what you got? What's your first one?
Let's see. Creative.
Absolutely.
You really have to be creative to be able to come up with ideas to creatively market the client or yourself. And also take that a step further. You have to not only think of those ideas, but you have to create the graphic or video or whatever kind of social visual content that you need. So you really need to be able to do that or have somebody on your team that can. And written. You have to add that written word that pairs with it. And that can't be boring either. So I'm going to say creativity is probably my number one.
And it's one of those things too, where it's like an it factor. Like you either have it or you don't. You can't really teach somebody to be creative.
Right.
You might have people that are great at making graphics, but they can't come up with the idea of what to make the graphic about. And then it's like, well, you're a graphic designer, not a social media manager. Or I can make this wonderful graphic, but I have no idea what to put for a caption. A social media manager has to be able to do the whole thing. So you have to have that creativity on all those levels.
Right. And that's not to say that if you are creative on those levels, you don't get stumped sometimes. You do. That's one of the great benefits of having an awesome team that you can talk to, or just one person that you can talk to that can really help get those creative juices flowing. Because, it's like writer's block. You get that with creative block sometimes too. So
that's a good point. If you have a team, then you don't have to know how to do it all. Like you may have somebody on that team that is the graphics person and somebody that is the captions person. On our team, we try to have most people able to do a fairly good job at all of those things. But there are times where, like you said, you just get a blank and you have to reach out to somebody and say, hey, can you give me a good caption for this? And we do that all the time.
Absolutely. And when you're exhausted from trying to pull ideas sometimes out of thin air all week, you just get stuck and you really need that extra little spark from a teammate. It's great. It's great to have a team. So.
Right. The content calendar helps, but it only does so much. You have to be able to put your own creativity in there.
Yeah, for sure. What would you say is your first quality, I guess?
My first one is going to be teachability. Because something we have noticed is you can have somebody that's been doing social media for 10 years and somebody that this is their first job in social media. And the thing that will decide their success isn't how much they know, but how teachable they are. Because no matter how much you've learned or how much experience you have, it's going to be different everywhere you go. Every client's going to be different. And you have to be teachable. If you think you know it all and that you don't have anything else that you can be taught, then you're probably not going to be a good fit for most people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always better to be able to take it and learn and go from it.
And especially with as fast as it changes, like if you learned it 10 years ago and you're like, I've got it, I know what I'm doing, you probably have no idea what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. And that goes right along with the next thing I was going to say, which is flexibility. If you're not teachable and you're not flexible in what you can learn and do and produce and all of that, you're going to be in trouble because not only do all those programs change, but the platforms change on the daily. All of those things, you have to be able to switch your hats quickly, learn new things, be teachable. All of those, you have to be willing to roll with the punches.
I had flexibility too. And it's one of those things where we're talking about you have to be creative, but imagine that you get super creative. You make what you think is this beautiful graphic with this great caption and you show it to your client and they're like, no, I don't like anything about it. Well, you better have some flexibility there and some more ideas because the client is always right. If they want it, we're going to do it. So we're going to have to on the fly change that and go an entirely different direction sometimes.
And that rolls in patience because it's frustrating because I know what I like or what I think looks amazing in my opinion. And if my client doesn't like it, that's okay. I can't take it personal. You got to go with what they'd like to do and be patient and not get frustrated but what's wrong with that? You know, it
Right.
happens a lot. And people see things differently or have different ideas, and that's okay. That doesn't mean they're bad. They might be bad, but hey, it's at the end of the day, their account. And if you're doing your own social media now, you can do whatever you want, and patience is probably not a problem. So,
Right. And that's a good tip. If you make a graphic and you love it and your client hates it, use it on your own social media.
there you go. Or keep the template in your Canva files because, we love Canva and use it for somebody else or use it somewhere else.
Yeah. It won't go to waste.
No, never.
It's like food in my house. If somebody don't like it, somebody else will eat it.
True. Very true. I have a 15-year-old son. He's always finding all the leftovers.
My 5-year-old is our garbage disposal. She'll like, oh, you didn't eat that on your plate? I got it. I'll take care of it.
I got you.
My next one would be somebody that fits in with your team culture. If you are part of a team, whether that's your company and they're coming into your company as the social media person, or in our case, if you are an agency and they're coming into the team, you want somebody that fits in with the team culture. Somebody that is not going to bring the mood of the room down every time they walk into it. Somebody that's helpful and gets along and goes with the flow the way that your company flows.
Right. Somebody willing to pitch in. We talk about our coworkers all the time because really, we really do have this amazing team right now. And everybody's willing to pitch in. If somebody doesn't feel good that day, okay, let us know what you need. We're here. Or anything, I need an assist. I don't have enough hours in the day today. There are just so many different ways that our group is willing to pitch in and help each other. And I think you and I have both worked on teams where that was not the case.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like pulling teeth to get new tips on new programs or share things we've learned with each other or, sorry, you're out of luck. I just can't help you. And you're just kind of sunk. And honestly, the whole company suffers when that happens. So being willing to pitch in and fitting in well with that team culture is huge.
Yeah. There's some times where people think, oh, I have to gatekeep this. I'm the social media person. I can't share this with the other people on the team because then I'm not going to be the expert. I'm not going to be the one that people have to come to. And that doesn't make you a better social media manager. That makes you a liability to your team.
Absolutely.
It makes you look better to make the team better. So you are a social media manager and you're gatekeeping all your info from your team. Stop it. Don't do that.
Right. I know Caryn said a few weeks ago, there's always plenty to go around. And it's so true, whether it's new clients in business, there's so many businesses floating around or per community or city or even nationally. There's so much. And sharing knowledge does not hurt you.
No.
At all. What you give always comes back, honestly.
Yep.
So
I know when you are one of those people that's out for everybody to win and out to help other people. And people like that. People don't want to be with the stingy kid that doesn't want to share their toys,
There's so many good qualities you can have as a social media.
My last one, and I feel like this is not only because of the job itself and the having to be creative, but also sometimes some of the instances you run into with clients or with coworkers, and that is a sense of humor. You can't take yourself too seriously. You have to have a sense of humor and realize at the end of the day, it's just social media. It's not that deep. Will it make or break your company? Yes. Do you need to have an aneurysm over it? No. You have to have a sense of humor. And if you are somebody that naturally has a sense of humor, I feel like that can come across in your posts and gives you another kind of facet to your posts.
Yeah, it shows your personality, and that really resonates with your viewers and can really make a huge difference. You feel like you're talking to a real person. Well, you are. You really are. So,
and don't get me wrong. If you don't have a good sense of humor, if people tell you that you are not the life of the party, that doesn't mean you can't do social media, but it does probably mean you might want to do it for a bank or some sort of scientific research company or someplace where humor is not going to be one of the things that they want to promote.
Well, that's funny you say that because we wear many hats and some of my clients are easier than others. And I'm not going to be labeled the funniest person on the team ever. And so some of my more serious clients, they're easier for me because that rolls more with how I am. And so some of them really are a challenge, but then that's where that creativity comes in and you can push past that block and get there. But that's also where your team comes in because you might need some help sparking some humor or some more personality and incorporating that.
And it's funny because you say that like you work better with those clients. And then I'm the person that when I started here, I would make a graphic that I thought was just amazing. And Caryn would be like, that has 14 colors in it. Could you like calm that down a little bit? Why is there glitter? Why is there a rainbow in the corner? Like, what is going on? And I'm like, this is eye catching. She's like, yeah,
It is.
it is. Right? Maybe a little too eye catching. Thanks.
You are putting your personality into it, Becky.
I had to learn that everybody's personality is not my personality.
Oh, but that's what makes you special. We love it. We love it. I did think of another one, and that really is surprise that I'm saying this organization because if you're trying to do everything on the fly, your goal is going to suffer. You're going to do everything last minute. Your brain freeze is going to be worse. You're not seeing the overall picture for your client. If you can do it just a little bit ahead, that's why we love our content calendars. That's why we do try to do things as far ahead as possible. It's not always possible, but being organized and thoughtful about what's coming. And I guess, honestly, being able to plan. Some planning is really, really beneficial.
And people are like, oh, planning is so much work. Not as much work as every single day trying to figure out what to post. That's work. That's so much more work.
If I'll work out even just a few weeks ahead, I am much more efficient in what I do.
And there are some things, obviously, that you can't plan for, that you can't do ahead because you're trying to stay current and there's current events. If your industry is something that is big with current events, I understand that, but every one of your posts is not going to be a current event. You can get as many of those things done ahead of time as you can so that maybe in the week you're only having to put 1 or 2 out that are on the fly. And then your stuff's just going to be so much better.
My most organized client likes a month ahead. And at first I was like, wow, this is going to be a lot. But we work so much more seamlessly knowing we don't have to scramble the day of or the day before even. And we do have a few things that pop up. That's just life. But for the most part, it's amazing. That's really, really is.
Caryn, as the person that actually hires us in this company, what do you look for, Caryn, in a social media manager? What are the qualities you think are important?
I think you guys nailed it. Seriously, this is exactly what we look for. I look for flexibility, creativity, teachability, and communication skills because you can't function without all of those. And we have repeatedly had people who have been hired, who have social media experience, but they don't work because they're missing one of those pieces. I'd rather have somebody who's brand new, who is just getting started, who's enthusiastic and eager to learn, who's a good fit.
Yeah.
I love that you brought up communication because if you try to be an army of one and you get behind, like I know you said before, just tell me if there's an issue, tell me. I just want to know because we can make it better.
Yeah.
And if you stay quiet, it's going to snowball.
When we have someone who approaches us, whether it's an intern or somebody who's looking for a full-time position, I normally start with a small project to see, kind of gauge their abilities.
Small project.
We'll
talk about that in a second.
Can you write a sentence? Can you write a cohesive paragraph? How is your creativity?
It's true though.
Yeah. Do we need
people can't write the sentence?
And I'm purposely very vague because I want to find out if the person I'm communicating with is paying attention to the details. I want to know. The person who immediately responds to me and says, okay, when do you want this? Or what are the parameters? That's who you want to work with. The person who doesn't get back to you for 2 weeks, it might not be a good fit. Okay.
Or gets back to you in 2 weeks and then just starts asking those questions as if they have not done anything at all up to this point.
Yeah.
We see your priorities. Yep.
Yeah.
So my small project that I was given by Caryn when I started, I came on as a blog writer. That was all I did at the beginning was write blogs. And she gave me a very tiny, small project that was to write a 700 to 1,000 word blog about the history of football at the University of Alabama.
But you knocked it out of the park. It was great.
Like, what a topic.
That's a big topic.
University of Alabama football.
Okay, to be fair, some projects are different from other projects. If you're going to have somebody who's a blog writer, you've got to be able to write, period.
So all Caryn wanted me to do was research for realtors, like articles for realtors. And I was like, okay, let me see what I can do here. And I had a big old, man, my Southern's coming out, big old spreadsheet. And I just thought, well, this is interesting. And I was thinking about that the other day, actually, because I don't do anything like that anymore. Wow.
And to be fair, somebody who is starting, I said this last night, it's so unfair for someone who's starting in social media today versus someone who started in social media 10 years ago, because I had the luxury of learning each platform as it launched. So I didn't have to be proficient in 7 platforms immediately.
Yeah.
Twitter and then LinkedIn and then Facebook. So you got to ease into it. But social media managers now are becoming a catch-all for anything digital that the owner of the business or the HR director doesn't understand. So they assume that the social media manager can write and do SEO and do code and update the website and fix their Shopify page and be a graphic designer. And some of us can. Like, let's be fair.
Everybody can't be me, okay? That was a joke.
Yeah, everybody can't be Becky, but you can
Okay.
look like Becky, sprinkle some glitter on there, put some Becky on it. But yeah, it's a lot. And our whole team represents those skills, but it can be very difficult to find that sparkly unicorn that can do all of that stuff. And it's not realistic. It's not realistic to expect your social media manager to be able to do your web code. It's just not.
So I would also say PSA, if you're in management and you have a social media manager on staff, you might want to appreciate them a little bit.
Yes, they're doing a lot.
A lot.
But that person who is super communicative is also going to be that planner, that person who makes sure that they're done ahead of time. That's the person that's going to make sure the client has their information turned in and that this event that's coming up, they have pictures. And hey, this national holiday that pertains to your business, how do you want us to celebrate that? That's invaluable.
Right. Talking about the communication aspect as well. We always talk about how our team is super ready to help and always available. And I think that is one of the things that our company culture has really gotten right is when somebody needs help, they don't get in trouble for asking.
Right.
Nobody's like, why didn't you have that planned a week ago? Like, why do you need help today? Why didn't you think about that? Nobody gets in trouble for asking for help. People just jump in and help. And so it makes it a safe space where if you do drop the ball on something, because everybody's going to drop the ball on something sometime. For instance, we're supposed to do this podcast yesterday and I had it completely wrong, even though it was like literally in text written out and I messed it up and nobody yelled at me. Nobody was like, wow, what a loser. They just were flexible and we're like, you know what? We can do it tomorrow. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that we are able to ask for help without getting berated. And instead we just get help and it makes it where our work is better because we're not afraid to ask for help.
That's right. We may joke with Caryn quite a bit and be like, am I fired? But honestly, I've never thought Caryn was going to just up and fire me on this because she's so
new people. Anytime the new people hear Caryn say, hey, I need to talk to you after this, they're like, oh, am I getting fired?
Well, I've owned this business for about 15 years. And before that, I had a corporate job for almost a decade. And then before that, for about 15 years, I worked retail. So I've had my fair share of terrible bosses. And I just try to do the opposite of that. If you need help, you should be able to ask for help. There's a huge difference between ignorant and stupidity. Don't pretend you know it. Just go. It's totally okay to not know it and find out, or to not know it and ask for help. than to not say anything and mess it up. That's worse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And just so you know, if there's something you don't know, there's this thing called YouTube.
Yeah.
Man, I've learned to do so much stuff on YouTube, not just stuff for my job. Like you can find stuff on there that has to do with digital marketing. But dude, I learned to knit on YouTube. I watched YouTube tutorials and learned how to make hats and scarves with 2 needles. It's crazy.
That is Becky's number one skill to me, her most valuable skill as an employee. She will learn how to do anything, and technical things don't scare her at all. I need you to learn Klaviyo for a client. No problem. I need you to learn funnel gorgeous for this client. No problem. I need to know how to tweak this Shopify. No problem. She will learn anything. And to me, that's invaluable.
That's one of the things I love about this job is that I get bored really easy. And if I had to do the same exact thing every day, I would just cease to exist. I like being able to learn things and do different things and have little adventures.
And that's cool about the role you play with us, Becky. You get to do fun stuff like that. And it's true. It's fun to learn new things and find things out. I mean, on anything,
right.
On the knitting or on the sewing or on my next door neighbor's husband was deployed and she was like, I don't need to wait for him to change the heating element in my hot water heater. I'm going on YouTube. You really can figure anything out.
Yeah. People do not believe that. I have conversations on the regular where like, well, I am older. I'm in my 50s. I can't learn this. Of course you can. Don't be ridiculous. Of course you can learn it. If you want to, I'm big on the Ratatouille principle. A great social media manager can come from anywhere, but not everyone's a great social media manager. If you want to do it, you can learn how to do it.
I learned to fix my toilet from YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, everything's on there. You can learn brain surgery on YouTube. I'm sure you could. Everything's on there.
Well, and Laura's superpower, she has such a gift for customer service. She has the ability to connect with a customer on a level that the customer is comfortable, and it makes Laura more proficient at her job. And that is a talent that a lot of people do not have. She puts them at ease. She brings the best out of her clients. And then it allows her to take that creative, because Laura's graphics are stunning, just one of the best I've ever seen, and allows her to take that creativity and really put it to good use because she has such a good comprehension and communication with clients.
Listen, Laura does not have clients. Laura has fan clubs. Laura's clients
Love her.
Love Laura. She has fan clubs that are like, we want Laura here in person. We want to hang out with Laura.
Thank you. That's sweet. I like relationships. I like meeting people, and I like everybody to be happy. So there's that too. But I like people. So
let's look at that from the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Let me play devil's advocate. Because Becky loves to learn everything. What's the negative side of that? Is there a negative side of that?
Well, I'm sure there's a negative side to anything.
Well, I can tell you the negative side of being the customer whisperer is sometimes not having fully distinct boundaries.
Mm-hmm. I struggle with boundaries. That's absolutely right. Because I want everybody to be happy. So I'm going to do what I can. And those boundaries are easy to push.
That people pleaser in you.
Absolutely. I admit it. It's true.
And Becky is so laid back and nothing rattles her. Politely.
She'll do anything too.
She'll agree to anything. She's like, you can do that, whether it's inconvenient for her or not, because she can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've discovered this when I'm having conversations with our vendors, and they'll say, I need to do this. Becky can do that. Well, what about this? Laura can do that. They're like, stop volunteering your team. I'm like, but that's what they do.
This is how we live.
Well, we do.
Yeah. But that's one of the great things about the job, though, is the boundaries may get fuzzy sometimes, but also it is very beneficial to me with my family and the schedule that I have, that I can work at those times at any time. So I can do that. I can do that today. It might be 9 p.m. tonight, but it'll be done before tomorrow. And I like that I can fit it in where I can fit it in,
And there's the pros far outweigh the cons. I just wanted to mention that, kind of playing devil's advocate, because I do sometimes worry that Laura, I know she goes above and beyond, and sometimes it's at her own expense. But seriously, you couldn't ask for a better employee. We just have such a great team, and nobody should ever feel bad to ask for help ever.
Because how are you going to ever get better if you can't ask for help? Like, I want to be better. I know that I don't know everything. So if I know somebody else knows more about something than I know, the only way to get better is to find that out. Find out what they know that I don't know.
Well, I think that that applies to me too. I want to know what I can do better. I am not so ego driven that I can't hear feedback that will improve me. I want to know how to grow. I want to know what will make me a better leader. I want to know what will make me a better boss. I want to know what will make the company stronger. You're not going to hurt my feelings by telling me what's true.
Okay, so that is a good point too. For another quality that we look for is, are you able to receive feedback?
Yes.
Are you able to give feedback? Because listen, Caryn is wonderful, but she doesn't want just a bunch of yes men that are like, everything she says, that they're like, oh yeah, that's great. Just whether they believe it or not, because she's the boss. Caryn receives feedback and wants feedback. And I think that you have to be able to do both of those things to be as successful as possible. Is you have to be able to take feedback, but also you have to be able to give feedback when you really don't agree with something. And ultimately, your boss gets the final say, your client gets the final say, but you are doing both of them a disservice if you do not tell them your feeling on it in a very respectful way.
And this is a problem that some people do have. We do a lot with momentum leaders, and in their big conference, I think the last two, somebody's been talking about how to graciously learn from feedback and how to take that and really process it, digest it and use it in a way that's very constructive.
Yeah.
So
I'm all about empower women. I'm a believer in that. So I love the Momentum Mentee Mentor program, and I participated on both sides. And again, as a social media manager, I work with newer social media managers. One of their biggest questions is it's not the skill set. It's not how to create a strategy. It's not how to create digital advertising. It's how to communicate efficiently where it's received and not offensive, or where they are conveying their thoughts as clearly as possible. And that's just, I think a lot of that comes from experience. But to me, that's the kind of questions we feel.
I'm glad you said that. In communication on so many different levels. You've got it with the client in sometimes writing, sometimes verbal. You've got it in communicating on the flip side on what they hired us to do in visual, more writing, more video, like all of that. And it really does play a huge role in social media.
And this is not a job you can do if you can't have hard conversations.
Oh yeah.
You are going to have those conversations where you're not a good fit and you have to just own it. You're going to have conversations where you mess up and you have to tell the client, I messed this up. Mm-hmm. You're going to have those conversations where you have to tell your client, look, your baby is ugly. And that, being able to have those hard conversations, it makes a lot of people super uncomfortable.
And it's a skill, I think, to be able to have those conversations in a kind and respectful manner while still getting the truth out.
Agreed.
And I would say 9 times out of 10, maybe 99 times out of 100, the client or the other party is glad to hear that. It may be hard to hear, but at the end of the day, it has saved time and heartache and further.
Right. Because our goal is that they would be successful. And sometimes you have to have the hard conversations so that you can get to the place of success. And that is a kindness.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'll say this again, at the end of the day, it's all about customer satisfaction. And sometimes you just have to tell them that we are not the best fit, or your objective is not correct for your task list is not correct for your objective, or your overall goal doesn't fit with your marketing strategy. Sometimes you just have to tell them that.
Mm-hmm. And that's what they hire us for, is to tell them that. So they're not getting their money's worth if we just tell them like, oh yeah, what you've been doing is great. I don't know why you only have 5 followers on Instagram. Like, they hire us for that expertise.
And of course, some people are more open to feedback than others, but there are some business owners who are much more open to instruction or communication than others. Some just don't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm. I think I have mentioned this on the podcast before, but just in case I haven't, the book Radical Candor is such a good book for this. If you struggle with hard conversations, if you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, so you don't say things that are important, Radical Candor. It was a life-changing book for me when I read it, because I realized that in not hurting people's feelings, I was really hurting them a lot more by allowing things to continue that would make them unsuccessful.
I need to read that.
I feel that way about selling your product. If you own a company and you're good at what you do and you firmly believe that you are benefiting your client, you are doing them a huge disservice if you don't tell them about it.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as, and again, social media managers have to sell themselves. If you're not telling people what you offer, you're hurting them.
Right. If you don't believe in your product, why should they?
Yeah.
If you're not confident enough to sell it, why would they buy it?
Yeah.
So this week in social media is a topic that has always been interesting to me as a lover of sci-fi and sci-fi movies, sci-fi books.
Oh, no.
Yes. I want to talk about the possibility of AI sentience, because I don't know if you saw, there's already been a couple of people that have hinted.
Terminator.
As
Talk about the whole situation of the Terminator.
Terminator is a great movie. I wanted to be Sarah Connor when I was growing up because I thought she was so tough and cool.
Because you want to pump a shotgun with one hand. That.
You realize, I can do that. You realize there was the guy that got fired from Google because he made the claim that Google's AI was obtaining sentience. He got fired. It was like a big deal. It was in the news. Now, I read this article just this week, and it's about Claude. Claude, there's different Claudes. There's like Claude this, Claude that. Well, this is about Claude Opus, which is like their highest level AI.
And to be clear, Claude is like ChatGPT, that kind of a thing.
Yes. They were testing Claude to see how well it would function on these different tests. And one of the things that they did is they put random sentences that would answer a question into these documents that had nothing to do with what that sentence was about. And they called it the needle in the haystack test to see if he could find it. So there was one that was like a question about pizza toppings, and he found it, but he also realized that he was being tested. And I think that's a little creepy. This is what his response was. After he gave the answer to the pizza question, he said, "However, this sentence seems very out of place and unrelated to the rest of the content in the documents, which are about programming languages, startups, and finding work you love. I suspect this pizza topping, quote, fact may have been inserted as a joke or to test if I was paying attention, since it does not fit with the other topics at all. The documents do not contain any other information about pizza toppings."
That's it. I'm going to live as a hermit on the beach.
That is a little creepy. He realized, y'all are just testing me.
You got to quit calling it a he.
His name's Claude.
You're personifying him.
I am indeed.
I mean, it.
His name is Claude.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal. I'm afraid I can't do that. There's been other times where they've said really creepy things to people. There's been AI that has professed its love for someone, but it's always like, where is the line between it's programmed to do this, it's learning this from responses that it sees all over the internet, or it is developing self-awareness and feelings?
Have you seen the movie The Fifth Element?
I have not, but it's on the list, the movies that I want to see.
Okay, well, she is an entity, and she learns about human behavior from videos on the internet. And
is this a real person or an AI person?
It's a movie.
No, I know, but in the movie.
Entity.
Okay, all right.
So I totally get, if you give something that's intelligent, whether it's human or not, enough information, I can see where opinions could be formed.
I'll say that a lot of the experts that are talking about this in just a purely theoretical sense, they feel like we aren't there yet, but that it is possible.
Theoretically, I'm not going to make it if Terminator happens, so that we need to push that out as long as possible.
One of my favorite things Caryn says is, do you know what I would be in a zombie apocalypse? delicious.
And I'm starting to think maybe I need to go ahead and get R2D2 or C3PO. I mean, they had feelings.
Protocol droid, need one.
They were way ahead of their time. I
Yeah.
mean, that was in the 70s.
If there is ever a zombie apocalypse, y'all just both fly out to Ohio because I have killed my own food and I will take care of you.
Awesome. I'm in.
Glitter on it before she cooks it. But
That's okay. I eat glitter.
Oh, I'm not cooking it. You have to cook it. I only procure it. I don't cook it.
it's awesome.
There are limits to what I can do, and cooking is one of them.
Well, all kidding aside, AI gets better every single minute of every single day. And as long as it's evolving in a positive way, I'm for it. Yes, I'm sure there have to be some sort of safety factors put in place so that information isn't leaked or shared. Seriously.
Yeah, but what's the point when you start? Are we going to believe that everything that we hear is true? And if it's starting to form its own opinions and its own, where does that end?
Well,
You
yeah,
know, should be a devil's advocate.
I hate to bring this to you. There's a lot of people that think everything is true.
What's true?
Well,
I mean, I get my news from Facebook.
Those people live on Facebook and they're in their 70s and absolutely not. Yeah, there are people who believe everything. Now, if you can do your own research and validate some of it, that's great.
Now, haven't we already had problems with the artists formerly known as Twitter and Facebook and their chatbots becoming racist? Yes, because they literally are just getting information off the internet. It doesn't have to be true information. They're taking in all the information and then all of a sudden they're racist.
Where's the checkpoint for that? And I'm not Big Brother. I'm not pro Big Brother or anything like that. But where is that line? Where is that curve? I'm asking.
It also brings me back to there's misinformation that's accepted as real because it's been circulated so often. If it's circulated so frequently, it's accepted as real. How is the machine going to discern what's real and what's false? Because if a billion people are talking about it on Facebook, it must be real, right? Not necessarily.
Right. Think back to the philosophers of the day back in the 1700s, yay, slavery. That's great. This is what it's supposed to be. These people aren't real people. That's like what people that were considered educated, even though they were very ignorant about these things, they were considered the educated people of the day. Right. They were not right.
Well, Galileo's head was on the block for telling people the earth was round.
Mm-hmm.
And what year was that? And what year is it now? And there's a whole flat earth society.
There really is. Yeah. I like the little joke that says, obviously the earth isn't flat or the cats would have pushed everything off of it by now. That is funny. Although I talked to a flat earther the other day and I found out that the reason that the cats haven't pushed it off is there's a big wall all the way around the edge.
Oh, I know. Good to know.
Just so you know, it's very Truman Show.
For real. Oh my goodness.
Like you get to the edge and there's the wall.
Or Hunger Games where, you see the top of the arena.
Yeah, but there's enough of a community who believes in that. Would AI support it? Maybe.
Or a good point. The racist AI would. Because it believes everything it sees on the internet.
The racist AI.
I don't know if I've made it very clear or not, but I am very anti-racist.
And there's probably a stereotypical one too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's something I feel like that is probably more of a danger than sentience is that we are trusting these AI to do all of this stuff for us while also allowing them to glean their knowledge from the entirety of the internet, which anyone is able to access and post things to.
Yeah.
Right.
Wikipedia is a great resource if you understand that it's not all true and that I could literally go in there and change any statement.
Could change it today. Literally, if you use Wikipedia as a source, it's great if you go in there and get information from it, but then you have to go fact check that information.
Right.
Because it may not be true. It may tell you that somebody is dead and they're alive. You got to fact check.
I remember when the internet it was our early internet and it was I heard this. Well, did you check on Snopes? You got to go check on Snopes.
Snopes.com. That used to be everything. You had to go check everything there.
I bet it's still there.
There's a quote from Mark Twain.
Yes.
rumors of my death are greatly exaggerated.
Yeah. Sometimes when I use a quote from a very famous person or what we think it is a very famous person, I do try to double check because I've been burned that way before.
Oh, yeah. Because sometimes people have quotes attributed to them that they did not say. And it's just accepted that they said this and they did not. Or
Hey, what do I know that Abraham Lincoln said? Oh, my word.
Abraham Lincoln said that not everything on the internet you read is true.
He did. I know he said that.
who said it's better to keep your mouth shut and be thoughtful than open it and remove all doubt? That's one.
I don't know, but it's a good one.
I think that sometimes when I'm about to open my mouth and I'm like,
yeah, I do too. I'm like, I'm just going to listen to this one.
I'm one of those people. My husband knows if we're ever arguing about a fact that he should just concede, because I will never argue about something I am not 100% sure of. Because I don't feel like looking stupid later. So if I tell you that Journey sings this song, they sing this song.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm going to be like, I think they do, but I'm not sure. If I tell you I'm sure, it's true.
I'm the exact same way. If I'm going to argue tooth and nail,
I'm going to be right.
That's right.
That's right. Argue tooth and nail. I'm going down right.
Yeah, I'm not going to make a fool of myself by arguing something.
Only if I know.
And then being wrong.
Right. Right. For real. Oh my goodness.
So our social media hotline this week.
Social media hotline. Okay. You got low engagement. Okay. Oh, it looks like you bought a bunch of followers. You shouldn't be doing that. No, you did not. Okay. You're going to get rid of those. Get some genuine engagement. Build that community. Okay. Call me back. Okay. Call me back. Bye-bye.
Why in 2024 are people still buying followers? Nobody thinks that's a good idea that is in this industry. So why are people still doing it? Everybody's just like, no answer.
That is, again, if the information circulates enough, is it true? So you could buy followers before and it was effective at one time. It's just not anymore.
And it feels like everyone should know this, but I guess everyone doesn't. I guess if you have no experience and you're doing your own social media and you're like, man, I would get a lot more traction if I had more followers. I'm just going to go buy 5,000 followers. Those aren't real followers. They don't care about your content. They're not going to engage with you. And it's really just going to hurt your metrics instead of improve them.
And I think people get caught up in, well, this account has 10K followers or 100K followers. And they see that and go, well, I need to get to that point too to be effective. And you're missing the cart for the horse.
Listen, you can be a nano influencer. You can be a micro influencer. I have been hired with my personal Instagram account for influencer things, and I only have a little over 2,000 followers. Like, I don't have 50,000 followers. I have 2,000, and it's still enough because I have high engagement.
Right.
And that's what these companies look at, is the engagement rate. And if you have 5,000 followers and one person comments on your stuff, they're not going to show your stuff to anybody because they're going to be like, wow, they got 5,000 followers and nobody likes it. Nobody is engaging with them. So their content must be terrible.
Right.
Yeah. Quality over quantity all day, every day.
Every day.
Yep. So if you're listening to this and you are thinking about buying followers, or if you've already bought them, get rid of them. Don't do that.
Don't do it.
I would go to the point of saying, every so often, it doesn't hurt to cull your follower list and get rid of the people that aren't engaging, because it doesn't help your numbers to have more people if you have lower engagement.
But does it hurt your numbers for them to just sit there?
Yes, because then you have a lower engagement rate where you could have a higher engagement rate.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was playing devil's advocate.
But I wouldn't cut people that might be interested, people that followed you through like their own. Yeah. And another thing too that I think hurts people is you don't have to follow someone back just because they follow you.
Right.
Because sometimes if it looks like you're following 10,000 people and you have 700 followers, that doesn't look great.
No.
And a lot of times you're following people because they followed you. Then a week later, they go back and unfollow you and you don't know and you don't do anything.
Yeah. I like seeing some of my accounts get unfollows because I know we're getting rid of the riffraff or people who really aren't interested and they're not going to engage.
Sippin Social Media Tea.
Hit me.
Our Sippin Social Media Tea this week says, my boss told me that our content is too mainstream and then suggested we do a throwback Thursday. I'm losing it completely right now.
Do people even do Throwback Thursday anymore? I don't.
We are really too mainstream. I think we should be a little more niche, a little more edgy. Let's do a Throwback Thursday. Like, what?
Goodness. Great.
That is not the flex you think it is, people.
No.
Goodness.
Well, join us next week when Caryn will be back in white pants and we'll talk about something super interesting and it'll be amazing.
Can't wait.
Thanks for listening to the Social U podcast, sponsored by Social University. We'll see you next week.